Bible's truth, when submitted to, it leads to love and unity. That is the opposite of what many will tell you in our culture. If you really believe the Bible is literally true, that's going to lead you to be a bigot. It's going to lead you to be a racist. You're going to permit slavery. You're going to be a sexist. All this kind of stuff. And I see what people are saying, and most of it is a misinterpretation of what the Bible's actually saying about issues. And some of it is because we in the church we try to use the Bible to bludgeon people rather than the truth of the Bible to love, to have unity, to stand up for the truth, yes, to speak the truth, yes, to speak the truth in love. A lot of people fail at that, but what does the Bible lead to? When you submit to it, I think it leads to love and unity, and I think we see that in this passage. Now, we talked a little bit at the beginning about what's called relativism. What's true for you is true for you. What's true for me is true for me, right? That's big. If you haven't picked up on that, if you haven't smelled that in your culture, that's everywhere in the culture. We believe everyone is a sovereign self that determines their own right and wrong. Do you know that idea really gained the most steam in the 20th century? It was around way before that. But it gained a lot of steam, and a majority of people started believing truth is relative in the 20th century. And do you know also that the 20th century was the most bloody century in the history of the world? More people were killed just through warfare than in any other history, and any other century in the history of the world. Most historians, every historian will agree about that. And most historians will tell you that the 20th century was bloodier than every other century of the world combined. Why is that? Well, we jump pretty quickly. We have communist Russia. We have, guys like Stalin killing 20 million of their own people. We have guys like Hitler, and we have the Nazi regime killing 12 million different people, low estimates. What did those people believe? You may not believe it, but they were relativists. Look it up. They believed that they can determine on their own what is right and what is wrong. And they don't need anyone else to tell them, thank you very much. The Nazis believed that the Aryan race, and why they believed it, their experiences, their feelings, they determined that it was true that the Aryan race is better than every other race. The Jews need to be exterminated. The Africans need to be exterminated. Homosexuals need to be exterminated. If you're born with special needs, mentally handicapped, physically handicapped, eliminated. Why do they believe that? Because they wanted to. There was no foundation deeper than their experience and their feelings. Do you see what relativism leads to if you really flesh it out all the way? It leads to the same thing. Why did Stalin murder millions of people? Because he thought he could. And he had power. And he could do whatever he wanted to. Why did Hitler do that? Why did he follow through with it? He believed it's true, and he had power. And he did it until someone stopped him. You see, if you really believe that relativism is true, that truth is relative, there's nothing to stop me from going up to you and blowing your head off with a gun and saying, that was true for me. I thought that was right. Don't you see that this leads to a society that no one wants? This leads to hatred and violence and injustice like the world has never seen. And in the 20th century, like the world will never forget. There is a smear across the entire 20th century from all the bloodshed. And sadly, it's a product of relativism. How many of you guys saw what happened in Charleston Wednesday, June 17th? Guy walked into a historic, predominantly African-American church. It's been around for a long time. This 21-year-old white boy walked in there. They were having a Bible study. He sat down for about an hour, stayed for the entire Bible study. And when it was over, he pulled out a gun and shot and killed 9 different people. Guys in their 20s, the reverend, the pastor of the church, a grandma in her 70s, 9 different people. He reloaded, they said, 5 times. He shot them multiple times, over and over and over and over. And he left, I think, 2 people alive, but one of them, he talked to him when he left them alive. And he said, I'm not going to kill you because I want you to tell other people why I did this. How could someone do that? How could they think that was okay? You know what he told them? Apparently, he's speaking to African Americans saying, you rape our women, you're ruining our country, and you have to be taken out. And I'm doing the first step in it. Why did he believe that? He obviously believed it was true. For whatever experiences and whatever feelings he had, that led him, because he said, I'll determine what's true. For him, it was true, and it was right and justified in his mind to go in there and slaughter people. Don't you see what this leads to? If it's really fleshed out, it leads to do whatever you want. Do you really believe that's true? That anyone can do whatever they want and there's nothing that's wrong? If you believe that we determine what's true through our emotions, through our feelings, through our experiences, Nazism wasn't wrong. None of it was wrong. Upon what foundation do you say it's wrong? I feel it's wrong? Well, okay. Don't you see that we need the Bible? Don't you see that deep in your conscience even, God has given you your conscience to know, no, there's some stuff that's wrong. God's put that in you. And he's revealed that to you in his word. Relativism leads to violence, leads to hatred. It leads to wishy-washy culture to where you can do whatever you want. Oh, but not so with Christianity. Do you see in this passage, because they believed the Bible was true, they sent this letter to the Gentiles, and they included a few things. James said, I think we need to tell them to do this. They said, don't eat food offered to idols. Don't eat food that has blood in it or that's been strangled. Any of you read that and go, what? It was Old Testament Jewish ceremonial purity laws that are no longer binding on a Christian because Jesus has made us pure. And so they were laws that Jews would still follow because that was their culture, that was their tradition. They wouldn't eat certain things. They wouldn't eat stuff with blood in it. And James even says, you know what? We should tell these guys. And he says, because Moses is proclaimed in all these cities and all these synagogues, there are Jews everywhere. And James essentially says, right now, will you guys please abstain from these things that are going to drastically offend these Jewish Christians? They are weak and they don't understand it all yet. And it's going to really offend them and cause them to stumble if you're eating food sacrificed to idols and you're eating food with blood in it. Would you do that? Would you not eat those things? I think it'll go well for all of us if you wouldn't. Some of us go, he shouldn't have said that. Like they don't have to obey those laws. Like, yeah, they don't have to. James said, would you love your Jewish brothers enough to not do that? And did you see how the church at Antioch responded? They read those things and they said, they rejoiced. Sure, we won't eat that stuff. We know we can. It's not morally wrong to do it. But if it's going to offend people unnecessarily, if it's going to cause more friction between the Jews and the Gentiles in the church, we don't need to eat that. That's okay. You see that the Bible, when it's actually believed, it leads to sacrificial love and unity. The Gentiles said, well, sure, we won't eat it. We want to love our Jewish brothers. We want to sacrifice ourselves for them. In the same way, did you see how the people, the family members of those who were shot in South Carolina, did you see how they responded in the courtroom? Some of them came to the hearing. And this guy is put forth on a TV screen, the guy who shot and murdered all these people. The judge is sitting there. Family members came to the courtroom. You know what they did? Unbelievable. They talked to him and they said, we know what you did was wrong. And they're weeping for their loved ones that have been murdered. Said, we forgive you. One guy says, I want you to turn to Jesus. I want you to be saved from what you've done. What you've done is wrong, and you've ripped our loved ones from us, but we're not going to respond with your hate, with more hate. We're going to love you. We're going to forgive you. We're not going to hold this over your head. We just want you to meet Jesus and be saved. That's ridiculous. How would anyone respond like that? Why wouldn't these Gentiles say, screw you guys, we can eat food with blood in it. It doesn't matter. Say, no, let me take every opportunity I can to love you, to serve you, to sacrifice my own rights for the good of you. They did that because they believed the Bible's true. And why? Well, the whole Bible finds its culmination in Jesus. The Bible's not just God's delivered word to us and it's got a bunch of rules and stuff in it of what is right and wrong. The main point of the Bible is that it reveals and it's all about Jesus Christ, who didn't just come and deliver us the truth. He actually said, I am the truth. He didn't come to beat us up for the fact that we haven't obeyed the truth. He came to actually be beat up for us. You see that Jesus came, preached truth, came as the truth, and didn't say, I'm true, give me all the power. He didn't do what Nietzsche said people do. He didn't do a power grab. Jesus came as the truth, communicating the truth, and gave up his power so he could save us. On the cross, Jesus laid aside any authority he had to call down angels or whatever. He said, I'm not going to do that. When they came to arrest Jesus to take him to be crucified, they said, we're looking for Jesus of Nazareth. He said, I am. And a whole horde of men went and fell down. You see the authority he has? He didn't have to be crucified. It doesn't matter what they want to do. I'm him. Everyone falls down. Then they stand back up. He says, who are you looking for again? Me? Okay, I'll go with you. And Jesus then walked and went and carried his own cross and went and was crucified for you, for me. Jesus came as the truth, communicated what's truth, and really communicated that you and I have a problem. We don't obey the truth. We don't submit to the truth. Many times we do what we want to do. Jesus didn't come to take power. Jesus came to give it up. He came to sacrifice himself for us, to take the wrath of God that you and I deserve for our sin. He came to be beat up for you. And when you see that, when you get the gospel that you're saved through the grace of the Lord Jesus, yes, you can hold truth. You can say, this is true. I'm not going to shy away from it. If the scripture says it's true, but you can also do it in love. You can sacrifice your own rights. You can sacrifice yourself for the good of others. You can speak the truth to others, but speak it in love. If you understand the Bible, if you submit to it, it's not going to lead to hatred and indifference. It's not going to lead to injustice and racism. It's going to lead to love and lead to unity. That's who Jesus is. That's what he came to give us. We live in a time that we need to desperately cling to the truth, and we need to desperately cling to that truth in love. People need to know the truth, but they don't need to be bludgeoned with it. You don't need to punch people in the face with truth. You need to hug them with it. They need to know it, and they need to see that you care about them knowing what's true. Not just, I'm right and you're wrong, I have the truth and you don't. That's not a good motivation. We need to give the truth to people in love, as Jesus did. He came as the truth and gave himself up to love us. When you get that, you'll do the same thing.